Welcome to Adventures in Dolls, the United Federation of Doll Clubs YouTube channel. Today our program is on celluloid dolls and it's presented by UFDC member Sue Popp. If you've been enjoying our videos, be sure you leave us a comment and do take the time to like and subscribe so you don't miss your next adventure in dolls. Now let's enjoy the program.
Okay. So we often hear about doll collectors who say that they stay away from celluloid dolls because they're too fragile or that they explode or catch fire. It's been my experience. And I'm not sure why we are doing this, but I'll try to be a little more. Oh, again, I apologize because I've not done this in Google Docs before. My computer got converted. It's been my experience that the celluloid dolls are more sturdy than their reputation accounts for, and one of the best kept secrets of the doll world, in that they are as beautifully modeled as their bisque cousins, more affordable, and as a new collector, many of the characters that I longed for were out of my reach. However, I was able to find them in the medium of celluloid and have enjoyed these same precious faces as a part of my collection. And here we have a Rhenish gummy, sometimes known as Schildkröte. And she really has a lovely character face. I don't know. I hope you can get a good look at her face. She, to me, looks very much like the K-Star-R characters. And, you know, if you think about the Elise and some of those, she looks very much like them. The term celluloid is actually a trademark name used by John Wesley Hyatt Jr., an American scientist who developed the right combination of nitrocellulose and camphor into a usable synthetic plastic. Previously, European and British scientists worked with cellulose nitrate, but they were unsuccessful in commercial applications of the plant fiber and chemical compound. In certain combinations, nitrogen and cellulose is highly flammable and explosive, and therefore could be used as gun cotton for gunpowder for weapons. Another name for cellulose nitrate is peroxylin. And here I have a old store stock box, and it's made by Minerva, and you can see the peroxylin on the side of the box, and there are 6 heads in that box. The packing label is there, and I will apologize again because this is not coming out quite the same in Google Docs. Usually when we think of German celluloid dolls, the name Rhenish gummy, Schildkröte, turtle mark comes to mind. However, there are other manufacturers such as Selba, and that's the mermaid logo, and Bouchot and Beck, which is Minerva, the helmet, who produced very high quality dolls. Early in the 20th century, Rhenish gummy had a monopoly on the celluloid doll heads and the parts that were provided to others. When Bouchot and Beck developed their own method of producing celluloid for dolls, Gummy threatened a boycott and threatened that anyone who sold Minerva dolls would be forbidden to carry the Schildkröte brand. The boycott eventually failed, and both companies remained highly successful. And here we have a Bouchot and Beck pair on the right, and a Rhenish gummy turtle mark pair of dolls on the left. They are all very fine quality. The Bouchot and Beck are a little bit bigger. They look the same in the picture, but they are different sizes. And you know, the turtle mark dolls are very high quality as well. And when I talk about high quality, it's not just the fabric that the doll is made of and the painting style, it's the clothing, the detail. It's very fine fabric used, expensive buttons, nice fabric. While Busho and Beck developed their own doll molds and character faces, Rheinisch Gummy provided celluloid heads to firms such as Kessner and Cameron Reinhardt, using their character molds. The number for coding a celluloid head was changed sometimes to the numeral 7 or sometimes a 2 or 3 in place of the numeral 1. For example, a bisque-headed Cameron Reinhardt Mein Liebling 117 would become a celluloid 717. At times, the character molds were pirated and not marked with any numbers, but only the turtle mark. Also, some heads did not have the turtle mark, but were numbered only. It becomes very confusing, but none of the companies really wanted to stand up to Gummy because they were afraid of being cut off. So here you can see on a K-Star R Mein Liebling, the top mark in the picture is the K-Star R 39717. And the bottom doesn't have the 717, but it's the same. You can see that they belong together. They're both marked 39. Here's this is the conversion of the numbering system for the celluloid with the first number, numeral 1. Here's a full, let me just go back a little bit. Here is the full front view of the K-Star R 717. She's all celluloid, with a well-molded body, very, very detailed. And here's a closer view of her face. The modeling is very detailed, just as detailed as in the bisque. And sometimes in the celluloid, it's even finer. The little wrinkles and nose creases and mouth creases, because the celluloid was thinner and went into the mold more evenly, you get very good detailing. Now here is a mark. It's the K-Star R 728 in celluloid with a bisque cousin that would be numbered as a 128. And you can see over on the back of her neck, it's the K-Star R mark and 728. So to those of you who have bisque flirty-eyed dolls, she would be the 128. She's sometimes called my darling Rosie. And this is the flirty-eyed 128 character. She's all celluloid. She has a very chubby body. Oh, I'm sorry. And she has the toddler body. I don't know why this is doing this. She does have a very mischievous grin. And since my printing isn't really lining up with my pictures, I'm just going to go ahead and talk about the picture. On the side of her eye, you can see a little dot or a little rub. And that's actually sort of like the top layer of celluloid. And the one layer has kind of peeled off a little bit. So you can see that some of the painting was done in layers. Okay, this is one of my favorites. This is a K-Star R again, and he is a 727, which in bisque would be a 127. Now, most of the time when you see these 127 boys, they have glass eyes. This boy has painted intaglio eyes, and he is quite large. He has a toddler body. His body is very, very well made. It's very heavy composition, no chips, no cracks, very nicely made. And again, you can kind of see what I'm talking about with the molding, how that celluloid just takes every crease, and the expression is sometimes very, very sharp. There you go. And it just gives this doll a totally different look. If any of you have a bisque 127, you may not pick this guy out to be that same doll, but he is just really lovely. And you can see too, even the ears, the creasing in the ears, the wisps of hair, all that modeling is picked up because the medium of celluloid is so thin and malleable. This little lassie, she clearly I'm so sorry about this. She clearly has a character appearance, and she bears only the Shilkrot turtle mark. And you can see the turtle mark there. It's an earlier mark. The turtle evolved in several different forms, and this is one of the earlier turtle marks. Some of the turtles were in a diamond, some of them weren't, some of them were elongated, some of them were shorter and fatter. This unusual example only has the Shilkrot mark. In my opinion, she has a strong resemblance to the K-star R again. I don't know why these pictures are not coming up. Okay. I'm going to try something, and I may have to play with this a little bit. And this is going to be a little smaller, but I think it will be clearer. Let me just catch up to where we are. This unusual example also has only the Shilkrot mark. She's the doll that we saw right at the beginning of the program. She has to me, a very strong resemblance to the K-star R100 series. And then this is another one that's marked with numbers only. This character face, I believe she is a Shilkrot, although she does not have the turtle mark, but she has that appearance. And some of the Shilkrot dolls have that sort of amber looking skin. Others don't always have that. I just strongly feel she is Shilkrot. Now, here's a good example of celluloid being taken from a bisque mold, and you can see the bisque, the all bisque Cupid, and then the celluloid version is dressed and painted a little bit differently. She's actually given a little more hair. While the dolls produced by Rheinisch Gummi were greatly detailed and of high quality, so were the dolls of Buchau and Beck. After the celluloid war between the two companies, Buchau and Beck developed many of their own molds and created a face very similar to the popular Katie Cruz doll. This young lady is an early Buchau and Beck marked with a helmet. And she has an oilcloth body, celluloid head and hands. And she, to me, has a very strong resemblance to the common China dolls that were found around the same period. And she is a shoulder head, and she has that same type of body. This young man, it's really hard to tell in this picture. He's actually 24 inches tall. He has a huge head, deeply molded hair, and his body is very large, ball-jointed composition. Again, I've talked about the detailing, and you can see the cleft in his chin. You can see, well, I hope you can see if you look closely, there are molded hairs in the eyebrow, and the back of his mark, he's marked Germany 8, and he has the helmet mark on him. This is a 16-inch version of the same mold, and this doll is wigged. His body is very, very finely done. It's needle sculpted cloth, molded toes. And if I would have him here and lift up his wig, you can actually see that same hair modeling that's on the previous doll. Now, this is another unusual version of the same face. And this I'll talk about a little bit, and I'll show you at the end of the program the difference between this doll and one that's ethnically molded ethnically correctly. This is Buchau and Beck. They did the black version, but there's really no change to the mold, the style of the mold. It's the same mold, the same little teeth, the same cleft in his chin, the same curls on his hair. He's bent-kneed, all celluloid, and he is only 10 inches tall. But again, when you look at that face, there's very much detailing in that modeling. And here we have the family of three, all the same mold, 3 different sizes and a little bit different coloration, but they all have the molded hairs in the eyebrows, the molded teeth, and the little cleft in the chin. And to those who are New England football fans or Tom Brady fans, it's the Tom Brady chin. And here I have a blonde version of that Buster Brown hairstyle. That's the open box of store stock that I showed early in the video. And you can see, even though they're all the same mold, when you look at the faces, there's slight variations in the hair coloring, slight variations in the painting of the eye. They all have a different look. Now, I took one of those store stock heads and put it onto a little cloth body that I had. They're the same size. One is the blonde and one is the brunette. The blonde has celluloid arms and the brunette is all cloth. Both shoulder plates are marked with Germany 24 on the back, and they have the helmet on the front. And that's a little bit better picture of their faces. And again, the coloring, the molding is exactly the same, but that coloring makes such a difference. This is a Bouchot and Beck child. This is made, she's made more at the end of the production. She has the helmet, she has the incised helmet on the back, and she's marked Minerva and Germany. She's all celluloid, and I have another doll made by Gumi at the end of the show, and his celluloid feels the same way. You know, after the wars, there was the gun cotton was used sometimes for explosives. There were shortages. They played with the different chemical compositions so that they might not be quite so brittle. These 2 dolls that I'll show together, this Minerva being one of them, it has a little bit different feel. It has a more shiny, not a shiny feel. It just has, I don't know how to quite describe it. It's got a different feel to it. It feels almost more plasticky. And that's another thing. All celluloid is plastic, but not all plastic is celluloid. That's the best way to describe it. This is another Bouchot and Beck. This is a Katie Cruz lookalike, and he's got a very, very hard celluloid head. If you flick it with your finger, it's very hard. It almost feels thicker, more like a plastic. So I have a feeling that even though this is a common mold in the Bouchot and Beck line, that he's more towards the end of the production. And he's very floppy, like a play baby. I'm sure that he was played with and loved because his cloth body is very dirty. His face could be washed, but the body not so much. Celluloid dolls may frequently be found in provincial costumes of Europe. The dolls, as well as the costumes, come in many variations and levels of quality. Some are very poorly crafted using glue, pins, scraps of fabric, while others, as I said earlier, they use the finest fabric with great attention to detail. These dolls themselves were made by many different European firms located not only in Germany, but in Sweden, Denmark, Poland, France, Czechoslovakia, Holland, and others. So these other countries also made their own types of celluloid, and many of them feel really different. Like the Danish celluloid feels different. The Polish celluloid is very high colored. And the same is true of the Japanese celluloid when we get to that and talk about that a little bit. The Japanese celluloid is this very bright bubblegum pink. This little doll is a Minerva, but she's only 5 inches tall. And when you look at the detail again of her face, she's got a dimple, she's got the little nose creases, she's got the frenum. I mean, it's just, to me, amazing, the detail and the really attractive appearance of these dolls. Now here we have, and I'm going to leave this half and half so you can see. This is also a little travel couple made by Minerva, and you can certainly see the difference in the quality and the detail. You know, I'm sure this second pair was for gift shops, and they are dressed to represent Norwegian children. Now I'm going back to the Bouchot and Beck, and this is a boy dressed in the costume of the Alsace region of France. He has a celluloid head with a turtle mark, very, very well made jointed body. His shoes are carved wood, very, very nicely carved. The carving is very smooth. His hat is actually fur. Now this is the Alsace boy minus his hat, with two of his Bavarian friends that were shown earlier. There's a turtle mark on all three of them and the number 18. Now they are all technically the same mold, but you can see the different sizes that they appear to be just by the costuming and, you know, who sewed the body and you know, how big they made the seam that day. But I think that's true for a lot of dolls. The next series of photos will depict children of various German provinces, and these were all made by Bouchot and Beck. Bouchot and Beck does happen to be a firm that I really like the look of their dolls, the quality of their dolls. So I tend to gravitate towards them when I'm looking for celluloid. These range in 10.5 inches to 16 inches, and some have their original hang tags. And this is the group, the little Munich Munchenkind that sort of looks almost like he's in a monk's robe. He's the smallest, he's 10.5 inches. And the girl directly behind him in a Bavarian costume with the ram's horn hair, she's 16 inches. Many of the Bouchot and Beck were made, I don't know which firm sold them, but they have these hang tags that are printed. They're black and white, and then handwritten on the tags is the region. And this translates to Nuremberg artist doll. And then the region is represented, written by hand, and this is Passauer. And I do not speak German, so if anybody does, I'm sorry if I'm not using the pronunciations the same. Now, this is interesting too, because I believe it's the earlier dolls were all cloth. I think that it was probably easier to make a body just to the wrist and then stick in a little celluloid hand. You don't find as many with the cloth fingers. Now this doll is similar to the Nuremberg dolls. His body's not as well constructed, and in a way like Steiff, some of the Steiff dolls, their costumes are the parts of their body. If I pulled his arm off, his whole arm would come off. It's not a separate coat, but he has you know, he still has that lovely sort of Katie Cruz type look. And this is the Münchner Kindle, and he's the mascot for the city of Munich. He's always dressed as a monk. Now, the smaller boy, also dressed for the city of Munich, is known as Hansi, and he's made by Wagner and Zeitsch. The Wagner and Zeitsch dolls, they're made of a material called Haralite, and there's always some debate as to whether Haralite is celluloid, or Haralite is plastic, is it composition? It's some type of hybrid. I will tell you that the only piece of celluloid or synthetic that I've ever had explode was a Haralite arm. If you wet a Haralite arm, I found out as I was washing it, I walked out of the room and I heard this large pop, and it was the arm all in pieces all over my table. So, you know, I don't know what the properties are, but I'm assuming that it has some portion of cellulose in it. And so it is for now categorized as celluloid. Now here is the 7-inch version and the 9-inch version of Hansi. The heads are made of this heavy celluloid known as Harriet. It is a light sensitive material, and many of the Harriet dolls that are found, their colors are very, very faded. But they have such great expressions, and you know, the modeling is just so sweet. Their bodies are very, very well made as well. And there are also companions to Hansi. There's Harold, Inga, Barbel, and one other. And again, at the end of the program, I have a Harold, and I will show him. I'll also give you a trade secret. This doll, when I got him, was completely whitewashed. He had no color to his face at all. What I use is watercolor pencil, and I just apply it very lightly. And if you take a damp rag, not wet, but a damp rag, it will come off. So I feel that for my own aesthetic, as long as the doll is in my collection, I like them having a little bit of color to them. And if somebody else is looking at the doll, I tell them exactly what I did and what they can do. If I restore or refresh a doll, I always try to make whatever I do reversible. Now, this Sardinian boy is celluloid, but he has a felt appearance. His face is flocked, and it really looks very much like a Lenchi. It's no surprise that oftentimes this doll is attributed to Lenchi, but he is made by Minerva, Buchau and Beck. And I had another one and was able to sort of go down on his neck and look, and he has the Minerva helmet. He's clothed as a Lenchi. He has a flocked appearance, but he is definitely celluloid and made by Minerva. These two dolls are French, and they're very, very little. They're Petit Colin in France, and they have wonderful costumes. Even though they're probably maybe 5 to 6 inches tall, they have just so much detail. And excuse me, one of them is, I believe the, oh, I can't think of the province. It might be Alsace, but maybe not. But the other boy, the boy in the gray costume, it's hard to tell from this picture, but he has this huge pot belly, and he's carrying a bag of oranges, and he has bells on him. And this is sort of like, he's costumed to be in, he's as a Gilles de Binche. And it's kind of like a Mardi Gras, but it's a Mardi Gras parade that takes place in Belgium. And they stomp their feet very hard with these big wooden shoes to make the bells ring to keep away the evil spirits. And the people in the parade will throw oranges or candies or sweets to the kids who are watching the parade. Petit Colin, which is the eagle's head, is one of the many fine French manufacturers. Some others include Société Nobile Française, which is the SNF in a diamond, Société Industrielle du Celluloid, which is SIC in a diamond, and then Convert, which is a windmill on the back of the neck. Now, this is what I was talking about with the black doll. This doll is ethnically correct. She was meant to portray an African child. She was a gift to my aunt, who is now 92. Her uncle, it's my aunt by marriage, but her uncle on her other side was a missionary priest, and he was stationed in Africa, and he brought this little doll home for her. Now, as I pull up this picture, you can see France, you can see the eagle's head, and you can even see the tight ringlet curls that are molded into the celluloid. And again, it's the perfect medium for picking up all those little details. This is another little Petit Colin boy. He's actually, I'm going to say about 12 inches tall. He has molded hair and molded footwear. Now, oftentimes you'll see this same doll dressed as a girl in different provincial costumes, and they usually have this curly mohair flash of hair and some type of bonnet apparatus, and the sprig of hair is pinned into the celluloid. And And that's, so, they're not that appealing, but if you look under the hair and you look at the doll itself, it's really very cute and very well molded. When he's undressed, you can see that slim, well-defined child's body. He's got the eagle's neck on the back of it, or the eagle's head on the back of his neck. And as far as the detail, I mean, you can see that tummy crease, the navel, and even his hands. It's more expensive to have to make a different type of hand. And you can see that one hand is reaching up and out and the other is facing down. Even if I put that other, he's articulated at the shoulder, and if I put that arm down, his hand would still be sort of out to the side. Now, this is a really good example of a convert doll. Many times you see this real Norman look, that Normandy look with the convert dolls. They're sort of very olive complected, brown eyes, and the giveaway is the jointed wrists. Convert dolls almost always have that jointed wrist. And you can see on the back the windmill that I was talking about. American companies too were involved in celluloid doll production. Many patents were filed by inventors as early as 1869. The Marx brothers, not Groucho and Harpo, but Marx Toys. And I think their logo is MARX. They patented many celluloid dolls: DuPont Viscaloid, Irwin, Parson Jackson. They're all more widely known than others, but there are other makers such as an Indian head and a shield within an eagle, or an eagle within a shield. This is a Parson Jackson baby. To me, this particular doll shares a very striking resemblance to the K-Star R Kaiser baby. And I have to say that Gummy was not the only company that pirated molds. They had very little regard, it seems like, for the for the patent laws, and people just used the molds back and forth and used different materials. Parson Jackson had the stork on the neck. They're very, very heavy celluloid. They almost feel sometimes like like a pottery type doll, but they are plastic, and they're very tightly strung. They have metal springs and pins in them, very much like a Jessie Raleigh McCutcheon's doll. Now, this is a little American girl. She's got the Indian head mark. She's molded, and she's only about maybe 4 inches. But again, because it's celluloid and it's that malleable material, you can see, the chest bumps, the navel, the knee creases, the little tiny single curl in her hair. I mean, the detail is just really, to me, amazing. Now, this is difficult to see, but this is the eagle mark and shield. And this little boy I found, he's marked Sunny Dan, or Sunny Boy Dan, and he was made around 1919. Some people attribute him to Louis Sammetz. I'm not 100% sure, but that's who he is being attributed to. And this particular doll was made in many different sizes. I don't know how well you can see it because I know these pictures are small, but one of the odd details, I happen to be a very visual learner, and one of the odd details with these particular dolls, is that the eyebrows, it looks like there's a dot on both sides, on one side, and then they just bring the line over. And the other eyebrow, if the dot was on the outside of one, the dot is on the inside, and then it goes to the other. So their eyebrows are just, they have a different look to them. Now, the celluloid fashion pictured in Mrs. Buchholz, Shirley Buchholz's book, is extremely rare. And this is I have to interject. I feel she's American. She was made by Marshall Lefferts and William Carpenter. They were American inventors, and they did patent the design. I was fortunate enough to have seen a doll similar many years ago. She was once in the collection of Madeline Merrill, who was a very, she's an author, and she and her husband, Richard, wrote many books. Anyway, she later became part of my mother-in-law's collection. My mother-in-law was Maureen Popp. I don't know if some of you may remember her. I often wondered where this rare beauty is now. And this is the book that is in Shirley Buchholz's. I mean, this is the photo that's in Shirley Buchholz's book. I did take a picture of the picture. And she's actually, well, I'll be able to show you a little closer up after the program, because I do have one now. Not the same doll, but definitely the same. I don't think there were a lot made. And I have found early communications between different people who at first, when they first came out, I think they were attributed to being French. They were taken from a Bruce Smiler mold, but again, I think that mold was pirated and they were actually made by Marshall and Lefferts in the United States. Now, this sailor looks like an American sailor, but he's actually a Japanese novelty, as well as the Peanut Baby and the molded clothing Goose Girl. This German face looks as if she's missing her body, but she's actually a squeaker toy. She has a spring inside her head, and when you kind of squish the head together, she squeaks. It's amazing that she's not in a million pieces by now. And this boy is later. He's sort of that transitional hard plastic rather than celluloid, but he's made by a firm called Edie. And sometimes you see they have little girls with very thick, like they have little curls on the side and then very thick legs. And most of these dolls, some of them are walkers. If you put them on a book that's sort of tilted or a ramp, they'll walk down. And then a lot of them are these dancing dolls. And when they key wind in the back and they just kind of jump around. The references for this program were the Collector's Encyclopedia of Dolls by the Colemans, A Century of Celluloid Dolls by Shirley Buchholz, Dolls at 2000 Years, a celebration of dolls at the millennium, and that was a UFDC convention journal. Articles from monthly publications, Facts About the Nature of Celluloid by Nick Hill, the Celluloid Doll Wars by Angela Lipinski, and all the photos were taken by me. In closing, I hope that you've enjoyed this program and perhaps gained a new perspective on celluloid dolls. They are lovely, durable, and a pleasure to seek out and collect. Thank you for allowing me.
Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed Celluloid Dolls. We'd like to send out a special thank you to Sue Popp. She's one of our UFDC members. We appreciate her support. And if you're not already a member of UFDC, please go to ufdc.org. Sign up, and when you do, be sure you tell them Karen sent you. Thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.